is Sergeant Rick Carrier, and he is here this evening as our special guest to tell his story. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to introduce retired Sergeant Rick Carrier.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was quite an introduction. I agree with everything you said. I am honored to be here tonight, I want you to know. I want to share my experience. As a liberator, I am very proud to participate in the 25th anniversary of the March of the Living. Thank you, David Marcus, for this extraordinary opportunity to finally, at age 86, to tell my story of how I accidentally discovered and became a liberator of Camp Buchenwald. I also thank the Veterans Administration for taking care of my health, because without it and expertise, I would be under a great grass blanket right now at Arlington Cemetery, serving as a spiritual sentry with all my honorable fellow veterans of all our wars. My military experience was brief, and I can tell you this, it was a very, very, very eventful event. At 18, I was drafted and shipped out on the unescorted four-stack Aquitania. We steered around U-boat wolf packs chasing our wake, all the way to England, where I had intensive training in all sorts of things, fighting, and particularly in the manufacture and care of mines, booby traps, and explosives. That I was an experienced soldier. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, I was one of the first of off my assault Higgins boat. I splashed into chin-high waters and arrived on Utah Beach. Catching my breath and wading in shallow water to wet sand, I did my best to keep my .45 caliber Thompson submachine gun dry and explored mortars exploded all around us. I wore the colors of the 1st Army 7th Corps, 1st Engineer Special Brigade. On my belly, I snaked to the seawall a good 1,400 yards from the low tide line. I worked on the front lines of 4 major battles, right up to the spotting of the Remagen Bridge. After crossing the Rhine River, I was ordered to follow close behind General Patton's attacking 3rd Army. I was an assault reconnaissance combat engineer. My mission in following Patton was to search for captured territories for the abandoned German engineering supplies desperately needed to rebuild roads and bridges so American non-combat troops could have moved into. On April 10, 1945, my 20th birthday, I was in Weimar, Germany, where the local priest told me about a stone quarry and a lumber mill located in an SS prison camp 7 kilometers away. And it was hidden in a forest on top of a hill. That camp was called Buchenwald. The priest said the Russian prisoners who had escaped from the camp was seeking refuge in his church could guide me to the camp. That would be 4 of us in my jeep, me, the priest, the Russian, and a local Gauleiter's assistant. She was also a member of the Catholic Church. We arrived at Buchenwald's main gate fence. It was made of Art Deco wrought iron. From the gate center was a pierced iron labeled Jadam das Seine. At that moment, the Gauleiter's assistant perked up and said, the translation is, to each his own. And believe me, those poor people in that prison camp had to live by that rule. The sliding iron gate was secured with a chain and a padlock. The Gauleiter's assistant went on to say, Buchenwald is the largest Nazi concentration camp that Hitler built in 1937. Yeah, I said while examining the padlock, and determined it could be sheared off quickly with a few wraps of primer cord without harming that beautiful wrought iron fence. I could not take my eyes off the scene, though. I was a battle-hardened soldier, but I never, ever witnessed anything as horrible as this. Walking skeletons, bleeding fingers catching the rusty barbed wire. Sunken eyes staring at me were filled with pus of tears. The smells made me physically sick. When suddenly overhead, 5 U.S. P-51 fighters zoomed in, sniffing around for German armored of wayward Nazi vehicles to shoot. Seeing nothing but quiet camp, they zipped away to hunt for better targets. The Russian that was with us pulled me aside and told me that a few days earlier, the SS camp commander, fearing capture by Patton's army, quickly stuffed his trained cattle cars with 20,000 prisoners. They were mostly Jewish and steamed into the night. Where they went and how they got there is to this day unknown. But most people can guess what happened to them, and I don't want to go there. There was still bitter fighting between the few remaining SS guards and the barrack wardens, Russian, Polish, and Czechs, who were in charge of guarding the prisoners and managing the camp. I was tense and scared, but also outraged by the deplorable condition of the inmates. Instinctively, I pulled out my pliers from my belt and cut a wide gap in the barbed wire fence. A few of the tortured captives lurched through. Suddenly, a burst of machine gun fire from in the camp, the surviving SS troops and the Russians and the other rebels made me realize we were in extreme danger. I yelled out, "Let's get the hell out of here, now!" Seconds later, we were speeding back to the church of Weimar, where I radioed Buchenwald's details to my commander, and he then in turn notified the Shape headquarters and Patton's forces. Early next morning, I was instructed to escort an armored tank to the camp, where I blew the lock off the Arctic Buchenwald main gate. Within a few hours, thousands of U.S. liberators arrived, ending the horror of Buchenwald and bringing hope and a new life to thousands of survivors. After viewing concentration camp horrors, General Eisenhower at Shape headquarters issued directives to all units, that's everybody in the United States Army, to gather all Germans living nearby and with MP guards escort them to the camp so that they could smell and see the hell that Hitler had created. I also opened the camps up through international press corps so the world could know and not forget the atrocities created by the Nazis. But like so many soldiers and survivors, I buried my memory at Buchenwald. For 66 years, I didn't talk about it, and nobody really asked me about it. Even today, people don't want to talk about this terrible, terrible event. Being a liberator and participating in the March of the Living has changed my attitude, though. The March has given me the opportunity to look back and understand how important it is for me and you to tell my story. Through David Mackless, I had the privilege and honor of meeting the Buchenwald child survivor, Irving Roth, who was only 14 years old when the camp was liberated. And he, like most survivors, almost starved to death. When we met last year, he hugged and he looked at me straight in my eye and said, "Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much. You saved my life." I want to thank Irving and all the survivors who've had the courage and vision to tell their stories and to teach us that the lessons of the Holocaust are universal and must not be ignored or forgotten. Sadly, today, the seeds of the Holocaust grow in many countries ruled by dictators. On April 19th, I will march with Irving Roth and the victims of the Holocaust, and who also for all the victims of persecution today. And I will march for liberating all of the oppressed. Thank you very much.
am Joseph Alexander, Holocaust survivor of the horrible extermination camp Buchenwald. I was there on the day that you opened the gates and saved countless lives.
I am so proud of you.
On behalf of so many of us, to express my deepest appreciation and thank you very much for saving us.
I would do it again in a month.
This with our gratitude and thankfulness for everything that you've done for us.
Thank you very much.
Just a young kid. He's 2 years younger than I am.